We're living in a strange time, working for a strange goal. We're living in a strange time, we're working for a strange goal. We're turning flesh and body into soul.
My full name is Inelia del Pilar Ahumada Avila, and I'm also known as Inelia Benz.
The subject of the interview is her mission to this planet. You're not only saying that you haven't been here before, ever incarnated, but you haven't been anywhere in the physical universe ever before. You are absolutely new here.
Correct, yeah, I entered the time-space matrix, that's a good word, half an hour before I was born. When I first came in and I became aware that I was in time-space, there was certain things I wasn't sure about. One of them was whereabouts in the shift I was. Was it before, during, or after the shift? I didn't know. And the other one was, which timeline am I in? How severe is it? What's going on in this timeline? I didn't know either. And I found out when I was 3, and I wanted out. I honestly didn't think I would be able to do it.
At the age of 3?
Yeah.
And you remember this totally clearly now, looking back?
Oh, I've never forgotten it. It used to be a point of humor in my family, How many 3-year-olds do have a nervous breakdown when they find there's war still going on in the planet? And I used to see everything. I had a 360 degree and up and down visual of everything that was going on around me. And I kept falling over time and again because my viewpoint was around here, so I couldn't see what was in front of me as I was walking in the street, for example, and because the head was on the way. It was horrible. I could hardly see anything, and I had to point my head everywhere so I could see what was going on, and I couldn't turn my head all the way around, so I never knew what was going on behind me. It was very disconcerting for quite a long time. But I stopped falling over because I could see what was in front of me.
And the abilities that she possesses, which are extraordinary and significant.
I was speaking, according to one of my aunts, I was talking completely perfect Spanish when I was 9 months old. Downloaded the language and used it. I used to have complete recall about everything that happened. If I had read a book 10 years ago, you could hold the book in your hands, open any page, give me the page number, and I would recite it. I had that type of memory, but I dropped that at some point. I have no idea why.
In the 2 hours which follows, she details what she can do, what she has done, the fun and the problems that she experienced when she was a little girl.
Here's this being who's supposed to do this big job and is going through the teenage rebellious stage, And but I learned very quickly that I shouldn't do that because things went terribly wrong when I did, say no. I said something wicked to my mother, and I knew I mustn't say it, and I can't remember what it was. And my hand just came up and slapped me across the face. and I went, oh, that hurt.
There are times when you've moved objects around, right?
Yeah, but I don't do that very often for a couple of reasons. When I was a teenager, I used to do it a lot, and it was drawing attention. I said, don't touch that remote control. And he was about to press the button, and then he just drops the control on the floor and goes, ow, ow, and looks at it and he's like, that burnt, and then he picks up the remote control, opens it, and it's all melted inside. And he says, why did you do that? You couldn't have just told me. I said, I told you not to touch the button.
And even now, you can leave your body any time you want to, go wandering around and travel around the universe and see everything you want to see, right?
Yes, yes. And I kind of have to do that because otherwise it's a little bit claustrophobic to be here all the time. Normally if somebody's told, oh, you know, Inelia can read minds, whatever they're trying to hide comes up like right in front of them. So that will be broadcast and I can pick that up. If I saw somebody sick, I would sit next to them so that their level of vibration would rise, and I would do that naturally throughout my entire childhood and through my teenage years and later on. And it's always been a situation where the other person needs help. I was sitting next to him for about an hour or two, and we were talking away. We had a huge long conversation all about different things, different topics and stuff, and all of a sudden he turns around to me and he says, "Where did you learn Portuguese?" And I look at him and says, "Never, I can't speak Portuguese." And he says, "But you've been speaking Portuguese to me for the past hour, 2 hours." He no longer had a terminal illness, he was cured. He had put two and two together, and he came back and he wanted to thank me for healing him and stuff like that. I only have one job, and that's to raise the vibrational level of the planet to a critical point that will allow a transition into the new paradigm, a new level of awareness for everything, for the planets and every being in it, every rock, every insect, every person. And that's my only job, and I will do anything to achieve that. If it means helping somebody who's already awakened and aware and enlightened to reach an even higher level of vibration, then I will do that. And if it means waking somebody who was previously asleep, and that will raise their level of vibration, I will do that. But I don't do anything. I don't have any intention. I don't have any attachment to outcome. I don't have any curiosity. Nothing. It's just complete focus. And what appears to happen is that there's something else, whatever it is, the divine force, energy, chi, whatever, comes through and directly into her to resolve and do whatever that I have no idea what it is. And then it's done.
These assignments or missions or tasks, how many of these have you undertaken in your life?
It's impossible to say.
Hundreds? Thousands? How are we, a large?
Very large.
A very large number.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, some of them are tiny, you know. Some of them is just going somewhere and being somewhere, or saying something to somebody.
Just a little tiny thing that might take a tiny part of one day.
Yeah.
And then something else. I think you told me that there's some assignments that kind of go on
for years.
For a long time.
Yes, for years sometimes.
This is so wonderful interviewing someone who's telepathic, because you know exactly what I'm going to ask you now. When you were given me as a target. Okay. Telepathy doesn't work with a video camera. You actually have to say something. You were given my name. Is this right?
Right. Bill and Avalon.
Bill and Avalon.
Yeah.
And this didn't mean anything to you?
No, nothing. I'd never heard of you before. I'm sorry.
So your role basically is a bit like a referee or an umpire in a game. It's to make sure that the game is played fairly and according to the rules, and if anyone is transgressing those rules, then they're kind of right, then they're brought into line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, is this, do you think, a one-off intervention? Is this about changing timelines, and that once those points are switched on the railroad track, then beings like you with a functionality like you will no longer have to be here?
Yes.
That's a good answer.
When I've seen psychics look at timelines, they look, like you said, they look like a movie. They go into what's called the Akashic Records and look at it like a movie, while when I do it, I actually go there. So I have to be really careful, because it can change things. It can change the past. It can change the future. There are points in time that they could have been taken out of that mission, either physically, completely, or by just killing their will to carry on in that mission. Or even there's juncture points where the person is about to start their mission, and they're in that kind of decision-making point, and so much negativity is injected into them that they will probably decide not to do it. So I come in and counter that negativity so that they can make a free will choice.
Without being negatively influenced.
Right.
So
So
it's like you shield them from the negative influence, which then allows them to make their free will decision.
Exactly. And then they can decide to go ahead. When I walk into that situation, you see, there's no judgment. The moment you inject judgment into darkness, you're gone. You're destroyed. You can't be there. And he was just sitting there, and he was looking at me. And it was all like the complete energy was of pure, unadulterated evil. And I sat next to him. And I just looked. I was just looking at him. And he was looking at me. And I had no agenda, I didn't know what was going to happen or anything. I was just sitting with him. And all of a sudden, he sent a feeling, an image, a request of clemency. It took me by surprise. And as soon as he did that, I felt this huge rush of energy, chi, that was pure, unconditional love towards him. And it just infused him with that light. And it was just, whoa, you know, it's like it was out of this world. And I was gone out of there. I was back in my body, and I went, whoa, what was that about? You know, what happened to him?
These gifts are our birthright.
Anybody who reaches a certain level of awareness can do this stuff. It's part of the human toolkit. It's not something that I brought in from outside. This is all wired into every human being.
The most extraordinary psychic abilities which are recounted in this interview, they are not the gifts of a special person which we can't possibly aspire to. These gifts are innate in all human beings. This is Inelia's message to us.
Anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. The person who goes for a spiritual evolution path will always develop these abilities. It's a natural byproduct of developing in a spiritual way. They can go out and learn these things, and there's some fabulous tools and books out there that can teach them to do these things, but they don't necessarily develop their spirit. Each individual on the planet has control over their own timeline, and that's one of the things that they don't want you to know. Because if the person is able to change their timeline, they're not going to choose one where they're enslaved for the rest of their life. They're going to choose one where they can manifest whatever they like and live wherever they like and have a beautiful life. So when we're talking about have we changed the timeline, the correct question would be, have I changed my timeline? And joining those others that want the same timeline that I want.
Now I've got the visual metaphor of, in inverted commas, the timeline as actually being this big braided rope made out of millions of little threads, which are intertwined in any number of different permutations to make a timeline.
Yes.
And each one of us create that thread as we wish, and align ourselves with others who are creating their threads as they wish.
Exactly. And if you have a conscious choosing of that thread and threading and joining, you no longer have enslavement. It's impossible.
So you've got a kind of small number of pending missions that you haven't been able to progress.
Exactly, yes. However, on the ones that I have been able to make full contact, each one has been very successful.
And overall, in terms of the total context for all of this, which is
the planet,
changing the timeline and restoring free will and self-determinism to the citizens of the planet, how far on track are we? Can you measure this? Are we doing well?
We're doing extremely well, way beyond any expectations, and also it's wide open right now. It's wide open. There are no limits of how much it can be accomplished.
We're living in a strange time. working for a strange goal. We're living in a strange time. We're working for a strange goal. We're turning flesh and body into soul.